Hello guys, Nardino TV again and we are back again with another video. So guys, yung mga past natin na videos na related kay Trump, no, napakinggan natin yung side niya, no, yung sa mga sinabi niya about sa mga balak niyang gawin para sa Canada, no. And then, napakinggan din natin yung reaction ng mga ibang mambabatas dito sa Canada. And also, napakinggan din natin guys yung comment ni Justin Trudeau, no. So ngayon guys, syempre, hindi makukumpleto yung buong serye pag hindi natin napakinggan yung number one contender, no? Or yung talagang kalaban ni Justin Trudeau even before pa siya mag-resign, no? And yun is si Pierre Poilievre, no? So meron siyang interview na mapapanood din nyo sa YouTube guys, no, mga 1 hour plus yata yun. At ang nag-interview sa kanya guys, isa rin sa mga favorite ko na commentator, no. Siya si Jordan Peterson guys, no. Sa mga hindi nakakakilala sa kanya, sumikat siya guys mga around 2010, no. Kasi guys, maganda yung kanyang views regarding sa mga culture at saka din sa politics, no. So, yun nga, yung makikita nyo sa YouTube, mga nasa 1 hour plus yata yun, no. Pero meron kasi kung nabasa na article na hindi yun yung complete, no. So, after nung post na yun sa YouTube guys, nag-usap pa pala sila for I think another 30 minutes, no. So yun yung hinanap ko. Nakita ko naman guys, and kailangan ko pang magbayad para lang mapakinggan yung juicy part na yun, no. Tsaka kasi yung dun sa 30 minutes na yun guys, doon niya pinaliwanag kung paano niya i-handle talaga si Trump, no. Yung sa mga sinabi ni Trump about sa Canada. Yan. Kaya talaga, yun yung mga juicy part, no. So, sabay nating panoorin guys at mag-comment tayo about it. Pero bago yan, intro muna. Simulan na natin to guys.
Let's talk about the Americans and Trump, and I'll start by recounting the story of Trudeau's last voyage down to Mar-a-Lago. Trump famously met with Trudeau and seemed to troll him quite hard. I mean, the first thing, I don't know to what degree the Canadian press picked up on this, but Trudeau wasn't invited to stay at Mar-a-Lago.
Wow. Hindi pala siya
There's
invited
126 rooms there, so and Trump invites everyone to stay there who he invites there, and so, you know, that was a message. And then he trolled him hard. He called him the governor of,
as usual,
of America's 51st state, and let it be known that he had very little respect for him. And then he announced a 25% tariff on Canadian goods. And so I had like two reactions to that. You know, one was, because I'm no fan of Trudeau, one was amused pleasure at Trump's vicious humor, let's say, and the other was, you know, he still is the leader of your primary ally in a G7 nation, and so, you know, maybe that verged on contempt. Now, I'm not exactly sure what to make of that, and I'm curious about your response, and also how you feel about negotiating a new relationship with the Americans and with the Trump.
So yun guys, no. So tingnan natin kung ano magiging reaction ni Pierre. Kasi guys, kung matatandaan niyo dun sa mga past natin na mga videos guys, 'di ba? Yung mga comment ng mga taga-Canada talagang maaanghang, no? So tinawag nila sa Trump na clown or talagang may galit, no? So pakinggan natin kung ano ang sasabihin ni Pierre, no? Kung ano yung reaction niya doon sa sinabi ni Trump.
Trump administration in particular.
Well, I won't spend a lot of time on how I feel about it other than to say Trudeau is a weak leader who leads a weakened economy with a weakened dollar, a weakened border. And President Trump has a strong mandate and he spent his life as a highly successful businessman in the most cutthroat economic environment in the world, New York City.
So in construction, yeah, and in Chicago,
so
right?
This is a former businessman who can spot weakness a mile away, and act on it.
Ouch.
So that, to me, it's just humiliating for all Canadians to witness something like that because this is our country.
Yep.
But what am I going to do about it? Well,
Eto na.
look, first and foremost, we need to show up with strength. We have an American president who has always put America first. He's
Of
very
course.
blunt about it.
Siyempre, uunahin niya
I'll
ang
put Canada
Amerika.
first. The good news
Okay.
is that there's immense overlap in the two countries' respective interests and values. We're both liberal democracies. We both value freedom. We both share a geography. We have the
Grabe, no? Kasi guys, no? So, para sa isang tao na nagsasabi sa'yo ng hindi magaganda. Kasi guys, napakinggan nyo naman yung mga sinabi ni Trump, no? Talagang, kung kayo taga-Canada, hindi nyo magugustuhan. Pero si Pierre, no? Talagang nire-recognize din niya yung mga positive about that person, no? So, hindi lang siya nagsasabi ng negative. Pinupuri din niya actually si Trump, eh. That's actually good, no?
our enemies and our risks and our threats are the same. So there's no reason why we can't both win. And if you look at the history of President Trump, he negotiates very aggressively and he likes to win.
Oh. Guys, disclaimer lang po, no? Wala po akong pinapanigan sa mga politics na yan. Ako po ay nagko-comment lang ako kung ano yung nakikita ko, no? So, at saka guys, wala pa po akong rights na mag-vote sa upcoming October 2025 election. So, wala po akong kinikilingan or pinapanigan sa kanila, no? Nakikinig lang ako guys sa mga sinasabi nila, no? Okay. Let's continue, guys.
But in the end, he doesn't appear to have a problem if his counterparty also wins.
Oh.
So I think that we can get a great deal that will make both countries safer, richer, and stronger. And that's the goal that I'll be coming into these negotiations with.
Okay, so what would a great deal look like as far as you're concerned with the Americans
Okay.
on the energy side? Now,
Anong
one of the
deal kaya?
things that Trump pointed to was Canada's trade surplus with the U.S.
Yes.
Sana man
$100
wag
billion
ketchup or Heinz
and
ketchup na
that was
naman.
his estimate.
Yeah.
Now,
It depends how you measure it. Other estimates have it around 40 billion, but he's right. There is a Canadian trade surplus with the states, and look, from a mercantilist point of view, you can say that America has been ripped off by China and Mexico, and you can see examples of a factory closing in Ohio or Pennsylvania to open in Mexico or in China, but that's not the nature of the Canadian trade surplus. It's not because the Canadian economy has been taking American jobs, far from it. The nature of our trade surplus with America is that, yes, it is a ripoff. Canada is ripping itself off. Now,
Oh.
let me explain. Our entire trade surplus and more.
Ito guys, yung isa sa mga nagugustuhan ko kay Pierre, no? Pag may sinabi kasi siya guys, pinapaliwanag din niya with data, no? So, pakinggan natin kung ano yung sinasabi niya na bakit tayo mismo ang nagpapalugi sa atin, no? Or bakit ang Canada ang mismo nagpapalugi sa Canada mismo.
Is due to oil and gas.
Oh.
Because we export about $120 billion of oil and gas to the United States at enormous discounts to market price. Because we have been so stupid.
Ouch.
And our bureaucrats have been so obstructive and woke activists have been so fanatical that we have not been able to develop the infrastructure
Ayun.
to refine and transport our own energy to world markets. So
so
we
we're
sell,
stuck with the U.S.,
we
so
sell,
to speak.
depending on the time, we sell a barrel of oil to the Americans for, 10 to 30 or 40% cheaper than the world price.
Why?
There's a price called Western Canada Select, significantly lower than WTI. We send it, up until recently, at least 99% of our oil exports to America. They then get
Ayun.
to upgrade it and resell it at enormous profits with their welders and pipe fitters,
Ang
engineers,
galing, no?
making the six-figure salaries that go along with that. We give all of our natural gas exports to the United States because we don't have an operating liquefaction terminal to send it away ourselves. So they get our natural gas at massive discounts, and then they can decide if they want to liquefy it and ship it off to world markets at literally 5. So that is...
So yun pala yun, no? So nagbebenta ang Canada sa US ng cheap na gas, and then nire-re-engineer yata ng US para sa more high quality na gas, at yun yung binibenta ng US sa world market. Ang talino rin, no? Kaya pala tayo nalulugi, no?
That is the trade surplus he's talking about. Now, if he were to stop that today, what it would mean is that American workers at refineries and in other value-added places would lose their jobs, and Americans would pay higher energy prices. So that would not be good for America.
Yep.
In the long run, I'll be very blunt. I intend to approve refineries and LNG plants and hopefully pipelines so that I can bring that production back to Canada and make us more energy independent. But in the short run, if President Trump wants to make America richer, the last thing he should want to do is block the underpriced Canadian energy from going into his marketplace.
Guys.
In fact, what I would encourage him to do is to approve the Keystone Pipeline so that we can create jobs for American workers who will build and install it, but also create much...
Oo nga, no? Bakit nga naman hindi naisip yun for 9 years ni Justin na imbis na ibenta ng mas mura sa US, tapos pagagandahin lang ng US yung quality kasi meron silang technology na ganun, bakit hindi na lang tayo mag-acquire ng technology at tayo mismo ang mag-refine nung gas at tayo ang magbenta? Ewan ko, no, guys? Comment ko lang naman yun.
Much more wealth for Alberta and Saskatchewan in having their product reach tidewater in the U.S. Gulf Coast and get world prices. So that's an economic win. We also, it's not just oil and gas, though. We have the strategic minerals that are necessary for warfare and for the modern digital economy in Canada that we could be exporting to the United States, breaking both of our dependency on China. We have the energy, the electricity. We have major surplus of electricity, a surplus that we could even grow further, that could be used for data centers that America cannot build fast enough. So there's enormous opportunities for both of us to get vastly richer if we actually deepen our trade relationship rather than blocking it.
Right. Well, it seems highly probable to me that that would be the direction that the Trump administration would turn in if they were negotiating with people who were playing a straight game and were actually aiming for something like economic prosperity instead of whatever the hell it is that Trudeau's aiming for now. So you made brief reference to something quite shocking. Its full import didn't really strike me until your comments. So the fact, for example, that Trudeau turned away the Chancellor of Germany and the leader of Japan when they came cap in hand to Canada asking for increased natural gas exports over the long run also meant, given that we refused that we ended up maintaining our low-cost contracts with the United States and selling them all our resources at a discount.
Yes,
Jesus,
enormous
that's so
discount.
stupid.
Enormous
So that's
discount.
the business case Trudeau couldn't make.
Well, what I would, I hate to say this, but because we have blocked LNG plants and pipelines and other energy infrastructure,
Bakit nga hindi naisip ni
and
Justin?
because we're giving, therefore, our gas to America at like a 70 or 80% discount to European and Asian prices, and our oil at a discount of 20 or 30%, we're effectively throwing money out a window. What do you do when someone throws money out a window? Stand next to the window.
Yes,
right.
Like, I mean,
Sahurin mo, di ba?
So that is the true story of it's the pathetic story of our trade surplus, is that we're actually handing over our resources stupidly. It's not the Americans' fault, it's our fault. We're stupid.
Yeah,
and
for
we're going
9
to stop
years.
being stupid when I'm prime minister. We're going to build this infrastructure ourselves.
Wow.
But in the
Sana
meantime,
nun talaga,
it would be bad for American workers and consumers for the president to tariff our oil and gas. And look, we have an integrated economy. I think an automobile crosses the border something like 8 or 9 times between Ontario and the manufacturing states of the U.S. before it becomes a finished product. Why interrupt those supply chains? Also, why not allow Americans just to have access to buying our minerals? Or better yet, why don't we improve them here in Canada before we sell them to the United States to break dependence on hostile foreign powers? And by the way, what I would say to President Trump is that the gains that Canada gets from increased access to the United States, I would spend largely on our continental defense,
Ayan.
on a more powerful.
Kung matatandaan nyo guys, isa sa mga kinoment ni Trump doon sa kanyang interview is that nakaasa tayo yung ating defense, yung ating security sa army ng US, no? Kaya daw gusto niyang taasan yung tariff, di ba? Kasi nga sila ang nagpoprotekta sa Canada. So ito ngayon ang sagot ni Pierre about that one.
Powerful Canadian military that truly secures the Arctic, that protects us against terrorists, against intercontinental ballistic missiles, against threats from, God forbid, threats from other parts of the world. We could have a bigger and more powerful military with a bigger and more powerful economy. And so our interests
Bakit nga ba hindi
overlap
tayo magkaroon ng sarili
overwhelmingly.
natin, no?
And that's the case that I would make to the incoming president, who has proven that he is good at and likes to make deals.
So
Yeah,
what's
man,
your negotiating strategy as you look up into the coming years? I mean, you're still operating in opposition. You're still concerned with your chances in the next election.
Right.
And so it's not precisely time for you to turn your attention to international affairs, but that time is approaching. And so what do you see as Canada's optimal strategy in dealing with the pesky Americans?
Well, what I would say to the Americans is, let's take out a map of our shared continent. And, here's the 49th parallel. Where do you believe we need to do more to protect our shared security across that map?
And that would include the securing of the northern border.
Of course, the northern border, and then the Arctic. How do we get Chinese and Russian submarines and spy balloons out of our continent and our airspace? How do we keep terrorists out of our continent? How do we secure the border against the dreadful poison of fentanyl? And then let's come up with a plan to do that, and we'll do our part.
Okay, so you'd start with border security and military issues, perhaps.
Yes. Well,
And
I think that's because I think that's what they're really concerned about.
With regard to Canada.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. We have a mutually advantageous trade relationship.
Yan ang iniyak
Canada's
talaga ni
trade with
Trump.
the U.S. is nothing like the China-U.S. relationship. So I don't think they have serious economic grievances with us. I think what they are saying is, you do need to do your part. You're the second biggest country in the world. You need a military that will protect your territory.
Right, so you can show goodwill on that front and make yourself credible.
And I think we can say
Second largest ang Canada, no? And then, wala tayong forces. Di ba parang ang weird nun, no?
to them, I can fund a more robust military and continental defense if I have more free trade with the greatest economy the world has ever seen.
Wow.
And we can both win.
Sana talaga.
So it goes from zero sum to a positive for both countries. I think that's a deal that President Trump would take because it's good for America and it's good for Canada. So it's the deal that I would push.
Let's talk about key
Business-minded kasi
resources.
si
So
Trump eh.
obviously, Alberta has the third largest fossil fuel resources in the world, something approximating that. There's actually plenty of natural gas in places like Quebec, which is something that's not that well known. Saskatchewan has immense resources. So what do? We lock the American and Canadian economies more tightly together on the energy side, while you're simultaneously looking for international exports for natural gas and oil in Canada, also to push us to something more closely approximating the international price. I suppose that'd be the long-term strategy.
Yes.
So we have oil, we have natural gas, we have electricity.
Defense.
The other key minerals are.
We've got everything basically in Canada. You want it, we got it.
Ketchup.
And so, we have the
Heinz
Ring of
ketchup.
Fire in Northern Ontario, which is brimming with all the strategic minerals. We have the 5th biggest supply of lithium, the first
Yaman pala ng
biggest supply
Canada,
in the
no?
world of uranium, including uranium that is perfectly suited for nuclear
Pero ba't parang
power.
di namin random?
We have an incredible state-of-the-art CANDU reactor that we can sell. We have these prodigious rivers that can produce phenomenal amounts of electricity with zero pollution. So we have all of the energy that the world needs and that can help power our continental economy. I intend to actually produce vastly more energy by quickly approving new power plants, new LNG projects, new nuclear plants. Let's speed up the approval of all of these projects so that we can become the world's greatest energy superpower.
Amen.
It sounds
Sana
in
nga.
some ways like a return. So interesting watching Canada's role in that, because I don't think maybe Jacinda Ardern was a counterpart, but on the female side, I don't think there was anyone in the West who was more of a poster boy for modern progressivism than Justin Trudeau. And I don't think any administration in the West has failed as cataclysmically as his administration. And so that means maybe Canada could be, what would you say, the warning to the world about what happens if the progressives are in charge, and then one of the
Grabe.
countries leading the charge out of that movement back to something approximating like sane abundance.
Yes.
And that's your
Ibang
problem.
country dyan.
Well, it's my opportunity too. I mean, it's
Makinig daw
Canada's
kayo.
opportunity, because when I say it's a hellscape, it's the policies that have been a hellscape. The country is absolutely fantastic. It's a great country and great people. We have, 41 million highly educated, hardworking, ambitious people. We have a massive supply of natural resources. We live next to the greatest economic and military superpower the world has ever seen, and they haven't tried to invade us in over 200 years.
Oo nga,
And
no?
so
And
Oo nga, no? For so many years, guys, bakit hindi tayo na-invade, no? Ng US, no? Thinking na wala tayong defense, wala tayong security and everything dahil umaasa nga tayo sa Amerika. Oo nga, no? Buti na lang.
were markedly unsuccessful when they did, by the way.
That's right. We don't hesitate to remind them of that. But we're not going to turn them into the 11th province. But joking aside, we have an incredible country, and I think we have a very bright future. And I can't wait to see what we do and what we the example we set for the world.
Okay, guys. So, yan yung sagot ni Pierre, no? Kayo na ang humusga, guys, no? So, napakinggan nyo na lahat yung mga sides, no? So, ano ba tingin nyo? Sino ang mas magandang sumagot, no? Ako naman, sarili ko lang na perspective din, no? Kasi, napakinggan ko rin sila lahat, no? Ang masasabi ko lang talaga kay Pierre kasi is, una, hindi siya gigil, no? Hindi siya, alam mo yung parang pikon na sumagot ng may pagganti din. In fact, guys, pinuri pa nga niya si Trump no? Dun sa mga magagandang qualities ni Trump bilang isang businessman, 'di ba? Tapos guys, pag meron siyang sinabi, 'di ba, na ganito dapat ang ending, no? Meron din siyang data at meron siyang pagpapaliwanag kung paano niya gagawin. Yun din yung okay sa kanya, 'di ba? Sana talaga kung sino man ang next na uupo, no, talagang mapaganda, or sabi nga nung iba, no, sana maibalik yung dating ganda ng Canada. Well, Para sa akin, wala naman akong reference kasi ako po'y napakabago lang dito, no? 2 taon pa lang po kami dito sa Canada. So, wala akong comparison, no? Pero yung mga ibang nakakausap ko na talagang matatagal na dito, lagi nilang sinasabi na mas maganda yung Canada dati. Well, sana talaga, no guys, maibalik. Okay? So, yun lang guys. Thank you again for watching and see you again on my next video. Peace!